Ciao guys, welcome to another episode of the Personal PR Show. And today we are here with Heather and Therese. Hello girls, how are you?
Good. Yeah, can't complain.
Awesome. Girls, would you like to tell us where you are from, where you are based, and what you do? Heather.
Sure. I am from Portland, Oregon. I'm now in Central Oregon, and I am a channel and oracle, and I am a corporate healer. So I work with businesses and help them identify where in their business that we need to do some healing and then create new processes if needed.
Yeah, which is awesome. Thank you so much. Yes. How about you, Therese?
I am from Ireland. I currently live in Portugal, and I am an intuition coach and a business energetics coach. So I work with people like in ways of developing tools to access their intuition, and also in ways of looking at, as well with their businesses and seeing what are the invisible energetic blocks that are coming up, showing up in different areas of their business, and how to actually clear them and help them create growth and sustain growth on the more energetic side. So,
wow.
Yeah.
This is amazing. Wow, you're doing two different things, but I do see a common denominator as well. And Heather, right? Heather, you call it corporate healing, and Therese, you call it business energetics. And I'm sure that are two different things. Of course, you have your own angles, but at the same time, I do see a little similarity as well. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And the way you introduce yourselves is actually already a great example of the brand that you created for yourselves. As we said in the title of this live, of this episode, we said spiritual entrepreneurs, but of course that is more of a generic term. But maybe we could explore first this. What is your, let's say, what is your connection to spirituality? And is the word spirituality actually the right term to describe what you do? How about you, Therese?
Well, yeah, I have a very rich background, we'll say, in spirituality, because I used to teach yoga I qualified about 20 years ago now. And that was one of my first businesses, was having a yoga studio. And I used to travel a lot to India. And actually it was, I suppose for me, I was always interested in the consciousness aspects of spirituality as opposed to an actual devotional practice. So I was always really interested in, okay, what are these levels of consciousness that we have access to? So for me, yes, going through a lot of the spiritual journeying myself, it informs my work, but I wouldn't call my work necessarily spiritual business. I would call it more consciousness based. Because essentially what we're doing is what I'm doing is helping my clients access different levels of their consciousness. And they don't have to be spiritual. It's not a spiritual practice. They can be, but it's not, I wouldn't necessarily call it a spiritual business or spiritual entrepreneurship. I call it more working like in a more conscious way to help access different tools that are available to us as we open and develop our consciousness. So yeah, that's kind of how I work, even though I do have a lot of spiritual practices in my past and teaching yoga and all that. My work today it doesn't really reflect as much of that as it did before. Yeah. How about you, Heather?
I could listen to you talk all day. Your accent, like, can you put some lullabies together for me? Your voice is so soothing.
All the American clients, they have to say that. It's because of the Irishness, People think like Irish accent is lovely.
I'm like, keep talking. So spirituality. So for me, I'm not sure how I would define it. I think that was your question, but for me, it's all new. I grew up in a religious household. I grew up in a Christian household, and something just didn't click for me. There was always something that seemed off for me. Like it felt very constricted and very fear-based and very off. And then 3 years ago, I was laying in bed and all of a sudden 2 light beings came and started speaking to me. And it was my very first encounter with anything like that at all. And then I started channeling after that. My gifts came in and I started channeling out of the blue, and spirit started visiting me. So I realized that my channeling, it seems to be that my guides, I talk about, I'm channeling like the Akashic records, and I'm channeling spirit guides, and it seems to be that I've been channeling for clients privately for the last couple of years, and it's a lot of it seems to be business based, either entrepreneurs or people, CEOs, business owners that own businesses, that somehow the universe brings me, and my guide said, this is what you're here to do, is to help businesses thrive, especially, you know, in the coming years as things are starting to change and shift. And so I don't know if I would call it, I guess for me, I always categorize things as like religious or spiritual or something else. And so I guess I would categorize it as spiritual, but it's all encompassing, I guess. It's kind of like it's I guess I would call it spiritual realm. I'm definitely tapping into the spiritual realms. But I'm channeling higher beings, I guess. So I guess it is spiritual, but it's very mystical, I guess I would say. I would add to it.
Which is amazing. Wow. And my question would be, because we're here to talk about your personal brands, how did you incorporate this dimension of, let's say for you, Therese, consciousness, and for you, Heather, let's say, you know, being spiritual or, you know, mystical? How did you create your personal brand based on this? Or did it all come, you know, naturally, or was it a conscious effort that you had to make? I also know that you girls have 2 different backgrounds, which probably means that you have 2 different stories as well. Therese, you've always been an entrepreneur, whereas you, Heather, used to be in corporate before you started, you know, doing what you're doing now. So maybe would you like to tell us your story as to how your, let's say, your personal brand came about? Who would like to go first?
Go ahead, Tracy, you can go.
Okay, I don't mind. Yeah, I suppose, yeah, it's funny because when you say that, it's like I recognize that I had a brand before I knew what a brand was, you know, because of just the work that I did, because I taught yoga. And initially I studied computer science, you know that, Jessica, in university, and never really got a real job in it, because after going down that path by, you know, being advised by my dad to study something that, you know, would be useful, that you can make a living out of. And I enjoyed the lateral thinking and the problem solving part of it, but the actual practical idea of sitting in an environment where at the time there wasn't like remote working and remote like programming. It was like you were in a company surrounded by other computers all day. After years of training, I just was like, I can't do this. I left 2 job opportunities and moved to the Greek islands for about 10 months, just to kind of like really like find more of what I wanted to do with my life. But so yeah, it kind of naturally evolved. I suppose my brand naturally evolved because it was a reflection of what I was doing with my work, and a reflection of who I was becoming in a way. So there wasn't really a conscious decision, I think, to create a brand necessarily, but because of teaching yoga and then studying energy medicine and studying consciousness-based work, and it just became more of who I was and what I did, what I like to talk about, who I liked to see as clients. But shifting into more of a coaching place was definitely a decision, because I had worked more in like a medical intuitive, like working with everybody and anybody who wanted to book a session with me, I would work in that way, and healer as well. So working intuitively, finding the actual intuitive issue and then healing the thing. So I suppose from a conscious choice, I chose to actually shift the pivot, what I was actually doing, from more treating to more teaching and coaching. So I still treat in my sessions, obviously, because whatever comes up as a priority for them to shift is the energetic thing I'm doing. But it was a choice, just looking at what I was naturally, my brand became what I was just naturally interested in and what I was naturally passionate about. So it was lovely for me. I didn't kind of have to sit down and choose. This is probably the same for you, that it just kind of organically becomes what you do, because it's who you are and it's how you're living. So yeah, for me, that's all. I didn't consciously create the brand. I do probably need some more help with that with you, Jessica, but the brand kind of evolved. So yeah, and I think that's the way it is for a lot of people with this kind of work, is that there isn't anything else that we can do. It's like, this is the work, this is the job. So does that make sense?
Totally, absolutely, yes. And I'm very curious as to what Heather will say, because she comes from a completely different background, and maybe she had to, create her brand by design. Who knows? Heather, what'd you say?
I guess I would say, yeah, I came from corporate, and I thought I would retire, in that job. And again, I wasn't awake. I had no idea of anything spiritual. I didn't really know if there was anything beyond this. I doubted it. And when I left, I actually left with a bang, because I was standing up against discrimination and corruption at the company I was working for. And so I think that was kind of the catalyst for me waking up. That was part of my path. It was part of my soul contract here. And when I left and I visited by those beings, and then I started channeling, I wasn't even thinking I was creating a brand. I wasn't even thinking I was doing anything. I just wanted to be of service. So I would channel for someone, and they would refer other people, and I would, just for whoever wanted anything channeled at all, I would just channel. And my guides were the ones that were guiding me, and they told me last year, they said, it's time to actually create a business. It's time to come out. So for me, I think more of my brand was like following the guidance, following the prompts, and I didn't know how to do that. So I joined a mastermind, and I found that in the last 6 or 7 months since my guides told me it's time to create a business, the masculine brain kicked in, because that's where I come from, a masculine structure. And it was, well, what is my business? What am I doing? And what do I call myself? And I was stressing about, like, well, how do I make this formal? And what I learned is that when you let go, and kind of what Therese said, it's like this, when you let go and kind of let yourself be guided by intuition, you're guided to the next steps of creating that business and creating that brand. So for me, I feel like originally, I guess I would brand myself as a channel and a medium and an oracle and a healer. I've done healing through my channeling, but then now my guides have brought me into, they're telling me what you've really been training for is for corporate healing. You're here to heal at a higher level. So when you follow the intuition, then you find that your brand can sometimes just starts kind of changing, but if you let go and let your guide let us be guided, it will come into fruition. It kind of just unfolds for you, versus I see a lot of people are really in the masculine, really in their mind, trying to put it together, trying to put the pieces together. And I realized that the harder you try to put the pieces together from a masculine brain, the more stressful it becomes, the more sometimes you can get derailed. And that's where the trust comes in. So my brand is shifting right now, and it's probably going to shift again. It's going to throughout our careers and throughout our entrepreneurships, it's going to shift according to, as you're being guided by intuition to what the next step is. It'll just kind of naturally shift. So I'm kind of in a transition right now. I feel like between, single individual, family, entrepreneurship, healing, and channeling into going into corporate. So I'm kind of, what's it called? I'm kind of straddling both sides right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. Oh my God, I love it. Like,
sorry, I was just going to add something there. It's like when you're working in an energetic kind of space, an energetic capacity where you're doing kind of deeper work with people, it's not, you don't kind of choose your niche, or you choose your niche a bit, but you kind of, it's like you can't read how to do this. You can't, it's not a left brain, like Heather was saying, it's not a left brain decision of, oh, I'm going to do this with this person. Like, if you can't actually really do that thing on an energetic level, those people won't be attracted to you. So it's like, it's almost in a way, you have to become the medicine, and then the people are connected to you because of your resonance in this line of work. I know that a lot of other coaches that do a little bit more of a kind of structure or a points of learning in a more left brain capacity, that it's easier for a niche to be kind of decided, and it's like a teaching model, whereas this is like such an intuitive process that it's like you have to bring what you have, as in you're showing up with that energetic match for the people that you're serving. So it's, for me, for, you know, spiritual or, you know, more healing entrepreneurs, it's kind of like your innate intuition kind of tells you who you're going to work with, really, or what your skill set is to work with whoever you want to work with. So, and it's the kind of thing that you can't fake, you know, because you will figure it off you straight away if you're able to help them or not, because it's not just the words you're using, it's a whole energetic frequency that you're like working with when you're connecting on that level with clients, you know. So I think maybe that
can I add to that too? This is so, I could talk about this stuff for hours, honestly. It's so true, because and what I'm learning, you know, and every like so Therese, we're similar in kind of what we're doing. We're not you know, we're healers, like we're doing healing work, energetic work, but we're very different, and the universe will bring us different people, right? So like somebody who the universe brings to me might not be aligned to what Therese is doing, and vice versa. And that's what I find, what the universe has been bringing me, I call it the universe, but like, because I'm not even marketing, I am starting to, because my guides have told me it's time, but like the universe keeps bringing me these same types of clients, and a lot of them are women who are either leaving corporate or who have left corporate and they're starting their own businesses, coincidentally enough. And they want to know, you know, what am I here to do? Like, what is it that I'm supposed to do? And like Therese was saying, it's almost like, this is when I channel for people, they've come here with a specific purpose. They've come here with a specific mission and purpose. So like for me, if I was, you know, if the universe is bringing me clients who needed yoga training, or, you know, something that I haven't been guided to learn yet, then I wouldn't be aligned to them. So I stay within my lane, I stay within my niche, and the universe brings me the clients that I've been trained, because that's what kind of is going on. The universe is training us. So like Therese, you know, she started out in computer science, and then she was guided to yoga, and it's kind of like the universe brings you the next thing, and what it is it's aligned to your path. We create our blueprint before we come, we just don't remember that. So as we're ready for the next thing, the universe will bring the next thing, and then you take that next step. And the difference between this type of allowing yourself to be intuitively guided this way, which is allowing your guides, allowing your higher self to guide you onto the path that you created for yourself, that's what's going to bring you the most passion and the most joy. That when you compare that to someone who's working in a corporate job or something where they're told what they're supposed to do, you feel friction. It's not quite aligned, because you're doing what someone else is telling you to do, what someone else's, you know, maybe goals and dreams and goals are aligned to. And that's why this is so cool. That's why I love channeling for people with, specifically when they have questions about what they're here to do, because when you get intuitively, when you allow yourself to be intuitively guided, it will take you to the next step, instead of trying to put on the masculine side, or, you know, the left brain of what am I supposed to do, or, you know, what's going to make me the most money. That's not going to be sustainable. It's going to start to cause problems down the road. If you're following the path of the most money, you know, you're going to hit hardship, versus what am I here to do? Let me follow that path and then let the money come, kind of a thing. So yeah, I totally agree with Therese. It's like, it's an intuitive, and for people who are blessed enough which sounds like Therese's work, this is what she does, is working with people, helping them with their intuition. For people that are blessed enough to tap into their intuition, it's such a beautiful gift because you are aligning with the path that you created for yourself in this lifetime versus someone else's path and what someone else wants you to do or what everyone else is doing.
Yeah. Wow, this is beautiful, girls. So it seems that actually your brands are an act of co-creation. So you create it, and then the universe has created it with you. Would you agree?
I would.
I think everybody's brand is a bit like that. You know, everybody has their own unique gifts, and your area of expertise is going to determine who you work with. So, and as your area of expertise shifts, the people who you work with shift. So, you know, for me, initially, like I said, it was a lot of healing work with people. And then when I started getting into more business myself and I understood business, I was able to do energetics around business. It's like you have to have the left brain knowledge about a subject to be able to have the right brain intuition guide you to what the thing is. So it's very much about, I think everybody, once they are good at what they do or they like what they're doing, if they can drop into their intuition in a way, it will, their brand will be co-created, because it's like, as I'm growing and following the things I'm interested in, I'm creating more opportunity and offers around that. And then these people are connecting with that. So that's kind of how I would see it, I suppose.
Yeah. Awesome. Yes. Heather, do you have anything to add to this? To what Therese has just said? No?
No, I like how you worded that. It's very, I totally agree. But you said it very, very well and concisely about how, I can't remember exactly how you worded it, but about how when you combine the left brain basically with the right brain, like that's like the perfect match. So, and that's mine was backwards. So I learned business first. I mean, my left brain is strong. My left brain could lift 250 pounds right now. Like, you know, it can, like, it's flexing. I'm working on the right brain stuff came in on its own, but that's what I've been in training for the last couple of years. My guide's been taking me through the training, but my left brain's so strong. It's like, once I came out of corporate, then my guides brought in my gifts. Never heard of this stuff before, never even dreamed of these things before. And so it's the combination that's like the magic combo. And so for Therese, well, she started out, it sounds like, in spirituality and energetics, and is learning the business. I started out in business, and now I'm like being taught the other stuff. And it just shows you how important they both are. You need them both, or ideally having them both. I think just gives you more tools to be able to work with clients. So you're not just energetics and you're not just, business minded, you're combining them both. And I think that's where the magic, the rub is.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that. Yes. So guys, when we talk about personal branding, usually we talk about three things. Number one is values. Number two is your story. So your origin story, especially. And we talk about the hero's journey a lot, right? So the three phases, challenge, choice, a pivotal moment, and outcome. And then the third item that we talk about in personal branding is actually your mission. So if we go through these three items, what would you say? What would you respond? So let's start with the first one. What would you say are your values? And let's see if there's any overlap between the values that you have. Therese, what would you say are your main three main values, or even more if you would like to mention them?
Yeah, so I think for me, when I tap into like, why am I doing this? Like, what is it that I am, why me, and what is it that I have to say around the work I do? And what, like, the main things that come up are like empowerment, like teaching people that they have access to an inner compass, that they don't have to outsource their truth. They don't have to outsource anything that is right for them, because in a time of decision and a time of what should I do in my life, the only reliable resource is yourself. I'm sorry, like, there is nobody else can tell you what direction to go. But unfortunately, we have disempowered ourselves because we have shifted this paradigm away from using our intuition, to outsourcing our wisdom. So one of my main things is empowerment. It's healing as well, because when you connect deeper to yourself, there is a kind of an unlocking of a lot of your filters and your beliefs and your traumas that have kept you disconnected. So like a sense of allowing people to find a way to heal themselves. So self-empowerment, healing. And another one of my core values, I suppose, is it's purpose. Because and for me, following your dharma, following your path, and it's not about like Heather was saying, chasing the money. Following the path that you are actually supposed to be, like your heart song is here to sing, we'll say, is the biggest gift you can give yourself and the whole of humanity. So for people to have, and it's so fulfilling, like it's so much more fulfilling than actually the money in the bank. The money in the bank is wonderful, of course. I'm not saying we're not taking a vow of, poverty and being nuns, but like, it's like this energy of like when you are actually living your purpose. And because I've worked with super successful people who have all the resources, but they've lost their sense of purpose. They're like, I just do this thing because it's a big company, but I've actually forgotten what brings me joy. So it's like purpose is so, so important. So empowerment, kind of healing, and then birthing your purpose. That would probably be my three main values in my work anyway, and I suppose in my life. Yeah,
in your life as well, which is great. Yeah, thank you so much, Therese. Let's see if there's any overlap with Heather's values.
Pretty much 100%. I feel like I was gonna say it like or share it in, I think first I feel like this also is probably part of my mission, but like serving, I'm here to serve. And even I was very successful in corporate. And if things hadn't have happened the way they did, I'd probably still be there unhappy, making lots of money, but super miserable. But I was serving. The reason why I did so well is because I was always a servant. And so now what I'm doing, I'm embracing like the servant. And I feel like I would say it also as empowerment, because I'm here to empower people. I notice that, when I'm channeling for people, when I get clients and I'm working with clients, even when I do mediumship sessions too, but I don't really advertise that because that's newer. It freaked me out for a while, but now I'm like, okay, I get it. I can help when needed, but it's like I want to bring peace and through empowerment, right? Empowerment comes through also helping people, confirming for them what they usually when I'm channeling, a lot of it's confirming what this little voice inside them has been telling them, but the world around them is saying, no, make a different decision. Like Therese was saying, like externally, we've been conditioned to go external for our answers. For hundreds of years, we've been conditioned, probably longer. And so helping people, reclaim and gain empowerment through helping them realize they can trust their intuition, right? And what that sounds like and how to tap into that. So I would say, that the serving others through empowering them is would be a big one. And I find that I'm most lit up when I'm helping people align with their purpose and their mission. So similar to what Therese is saying, and everybody has them. And it's not that you're just here with one mission. You're not just here with one purpose, but depending on the subject, like when I'm channeling for someone, depending on the subject, there is a purpose or mission usually aligned with something that they're experiencing in their life. And helping people identify what that purpose is so empowering, because they can then cut the things out that they've been focusing on that aren't aligning to that purpose and focus on their purpose. And it just lights them up. And it's like you quantum leap in your life, and you bring in the joy and the beauty and the laughter and the love so much faster when you can realign with your purpose. So I would say very, very similar. Yeah, I would say those are the top ones for me too.
Yeah. Wow, this is beautiful. I didn't expect that you girls would have so much overlap, but it's beautiful to see you doing two different things, but you have the same values, right? It's amazing. But let's get to something that probably won't have that much overlap, which is your story, because your story is, you know, is usually unique, because we are all unique beings, and our stories usually are as well. So, what is the story that you usually tell people when maybe you introduce yourself, you introduce your business, and you explain how you got to the point of deciding to do what you're doing today? So we call this your personal brand story, or we call it your origin story as well. What is it that you usually tell people? Who would like to go first? Therese?
Yeah, I can go first. Oh, you can go. You want to go?
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
So I suppose for me, like I kind of mentioned earlier, it spanned a kind of lifetime of reclaiming my own intuition and my own power, because especially for me, I grew up in a kind of family that, you know, my dad really valued like the intellect, and, you know, he was an engineer, and he was like, and it was very much like, this is the kind of, you know, the logical thing to do, and the kind of most practical. It was really like practical like steps. And then my mom was like a little bit opposite, like a bit kind of entrepreneurial, like spiritual and things like that. So, but the value that was kind of, you know, held up, I suppose, was more of the logic and the like following the kind of traditional way to, you know, live and grow and go to university and get a steady job and do all this kind of thing. So I always kind of followed that all the way up to like my mid-20s. I was very much of a logical minded person, and it always brought me to the wrong place. Like when I look back now, I'm like, you knew, you know, like you knew, and you just squashed it down. And it came to a point where, you know, I had to really stop listening to everybody around me and actually honor the fact that I was going to go at my own way. And there's a lot of judgment around that, you know, there's a lot of judgment around friends, there's a lot of judgment around family. And the decisions I made, it was amazing, because the decisions I decided to make with my intuition, not listening to anybody else, were the things that propelled me forward, like took really big leaps. And my life really took a different turn when I actually started going, I have no idea why I'm going to do this thing, but I'm going to do it. Or I have no idea how I'm going to get the money to go and study that thing in New York, but I'm going to do it. And it was almost like my intuition was reaffirming to me, like, yes, you're listening. We're giving you, like, it was like a kind of, you know, baptism of fire, almost like I was learning on the job. And it took me to a point where I was, I suppose, like, you know, a bit of the, like the weirdo of the friend group. Like I just always did my own thing. I always sang, you know, danced to my own tune. And it took me to places that I couldn't even have imagined if I had actually stayed listening to who I deemed had more wisdom and had more knowledge and had done life already, and was like, this is the advice to have a good life. So I suppose for me, it was like overcoming that fear of going it alone. But it ended up being like, I could tell you story after story after story of things that I did that made me much more in touch with my intuition. Before I ever learned anything about intuition, I started following my own inner voice. And I suppose now I'm at a point where I am just such an advocate of people's inner voice, because I'm like, you knew. And they're like, I knew. And I'm like, I know you knew, and you didn't do the thing, and I didn't do the thing, but let's start doing the thing now, you know? So I suppose for me, it's like definitely going through it myself, really learning how to trust my intuition, and yeah, just creating the life that was meant for me and not the life that somebody maybe thought I was supposed to live. And I think that's our biggest gift as well, is to give ourselves what we actually want from life. and not our parents' script or our society's script. So I'm a real advocate of freedom, I suppose. Freedom of choice.
How all of these items, personal branding items or components, are actually aligned, because of course your values are aligned with your story. So it's not a surprise now, when we hear your story, it's not a surprise to know that these are your values, right? The values that you told us about a few minutes ago. And the same thing goes with your mission, right? So of course, one of your values is to empower people. And of course, it is your mission as well. And you actually empowered yourself in your own story. And now that you've done it for yourself, you would like to help other people, so to say, get to the other side as well and empower themselves and follow their intuition was right for them.
One of my big things is that we are the medicine. You know what I mean? Like, it's my life story of what I've done, and then I can help people do the thing because I'm embodying that. I'm not like telling you to do something that I haven't done myself. So I feel like that's an energetic exchange, and that can actually help shift people when they've gone through. And it's for anybody, like for you, Jessica, you've done this unique stuff that you can help others do it because it's your energy, So I feel like that's the story should be. Our story should be our brand, our message, so yeah.
Yes. Wow, this feels also natural and so aligned. So well done. As if you had, created all of this overarching strategy by design, which is not the case. Yeah. How about you, Heather? What would you say? Would you say that there is, let's say, an overarching alignment between your values, your story, and your mission?
Yes, for sure. And like when I look back now at my story, same grew up, like I said, I grew up in a religious household, kind of, but very, was very, 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 a spiteful God, make sure you're not doing anything wrong. And then you go to school and you get it and you get into a job and you just keep working and you fill your 401k and there were times when I was miserable and my mom would say, you don't quit, you never quit. And so I'd keep going and I would get sick because I was so unhappy and so miserable. And then when I left, my guides actually were the ones who came and told me after they spoke to me for 3.5 hours and changed my whole world. They told me that I was here to expose corruption at that company. And they told me what to do. They told me to create a blog, which I'd never done. They told me to create a website, did all that. And my passion was always helping people thrive in their work and help them get into a job that they're thriving in. And that's what I'm doing now. Only I'm channeling it. I'm channeling their mission and purpose and helping them align with that. So when I look back and I think about everything that happened up until this point, it was all so beautifully orchestrated and so beautifully done. Even the trauma, especially the trauma, and helping to clearly define for me what I'm here to do. What am I here to do? And it's not a coincidence that what I'm here to do and what I'm doing aligns with things that I have always felt from a child. I've always stuck up for people. I'm always the one getting in front of the bully. I'm always the one, like, as a kid, always the one speaking truth, always the one encouraging. And that's what I'm doing now. And that's what I did, at the end of my corporate career to help other people get to a place that they were thriving. And it's just, when you look back and you just see the thread that's been going on your whole life and going, yep, it's all lining up. And I can't wait to see where the next 10 or 20 years are going to go, because it's like, you couldn't have made this up. It's so totally pre-planned, the big things and everything that you've experienced in your life has helped prepare me to be the person I am today. And for me to now have the gifts and to be doing what I'm doing today, I look back even into childhood and I say, yes, I couldn't have imagined or planned it any better to get, especially the trauma, right? Especially the things that I learned, because sometimes you have to be pushed to the edge before you realize what's important to you, like being told, again, get a corporate job, you make lots of money, put in your 401k, put in your retirement. And I was so miserable that it was almost like I I rejected it so hard that now I see the truth, where if I hadn't been pushed so hard, I might not have gone through some of the things that I went through that helped me get to this place. So everything, the universe orchestrates everything perfectly in alignment with our path.
Yeah. And the universe orchestrated your brands perfectly as well, because they sound very, very coherent as well in all of their components. Because we are unfortunately approaching the end of our conversation today, but we do have one more round of questions, and you are going to determine the questions. So Heather, what would you like to ask Therese? And Therese, what would you like to ask Heather? Who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay, cool.
I'd have a ton of questions. I'll have to ask them to you offline. But the first one that comes to mind is when you look back at the last 10 or 20 years of life, but also of business. Do you have any idea now, if you think about the next 5 or 10, where your what will you be doing in 5 or 10? Like how much has changed in the last 5 or 10 years? And then can you use that information to try to determine where the universe is taking you in the next 5 or 10?
Good question. I get like inspirational like downloads of like do this, do that all the time. It's a bit much. But what I would love to do, like what I would actually really like to do, is to create a couple of courses and teach them to like a lot of people around intuition, like really practical, structured intuition. Like, because the intuition for me is there. It's always there. It's just all of our filters that stop us from receiving the information. Like, you don't have to train your intuition. Your intuition is already perfect. So I'd love to bring more of that to like a bigger scale so that people can actually start seeing how how magical they are, and how what they think and what they believe and how they intuit fundamentally creates reality, I suppose. I'd love to do that work on a bigger scale. I'd love to talk on a stage. I'd probably love to write a book. There's loads of things, but yeah, all of those things.
How cool would it be? How cool would it be if you like also designed a course for like children, because children are not taught to listen to their intuition. And you go into school and immediately you're in the zone of what I'm supposed to know, and everything else you shut out. And that's when we start shutting our gifts down in childhood. How cool would it be if you could put something together for kids?
Yeah, definitely. That would definitely be a part of it, like levels of entry. But also I'm working on a whole business energetics protocol. So something really like where you can actually teach business energetics to coaches, and then they can use it in business. So I'd love to. That's another thing that's on the list. So yeah, educating, speaking, creating, working with people one-to-one. I'll never stop doing that. I adore it. Yeah. And I'm kind of curious now for the same question. Sorry to be so unoriginal, but I'm like, what would be your idea of 10 years, 10 years time?
Yeah. Well,
What?
It's very similar to what you said. I keep seeing, like, my guides keep bringing me like visions of me on stage, like talking with people. I feel like I want to teach people how to identify their purpose and mission in life. And I do that when I'm channeling, by helping them to see the reasons for their experiences, the reasons for the trauma they've experienced. It all usually lines up to help direct people, to help them harness their power and what they came here to do. So I'd like to teach that on a bigger scale, and speak, hundreds or thousands of people, and teach people in, maybe it's a weekend workshop or something, teach people how to tune out the external, and learn how to identify for themselves what their purpose and mission is, because that's what I've seen brings people so much joy when you align with your mission and purpose. And then I would really like to be working with corporations, continue to work with corporations on larger scale to help. And this is aligned again with what my guides are telling me I'm here to do, which lights me up, which means that's what I'm here to do. And helping the corporations and the businesses that are critical for the new world, like moving into the next 5 or 10 years as the old world collapses. Because look at how messed up everything's collapsing right now. I've been told that I'm here to help corporations and businesses that are here to move into the new world, get healthy, get strong, be able to sustain and grow, and keep them from being gobbled up by the big dogs, which that's what's happening. The big dogs are gobbling up all the little businesses. And I would like to work with as many as I can to help them stay not just healthy, but grow and be able to have a bigger playing field, I guess, from a healthy way, by putting their people first and again and aligning with their purpose and mission, so that from the CEO down, people are happy to come to work. They like what they're doing. They believe in the company. They believe in the mission and purpose, and they're not just being used as conduits to make someone a bunch of money. That's what I'd like.
Wow.
Amazing. Yeah.
A lot of overlap as well when it comes to your future, to your plans for the next 10 years. And that, to be honest, doesn't surprise me, because you do have incredible overlap when it comes to your values, right? So if your values are empowerment and purpose, then definitely you want to go into thought leadership. You want to be into educating people, really spreading your message, spreading your breakthrough idea to as many people as you want, and creating movements out of this as well. So I love this, girls. Thank you so much for what you're doing for humanity.
My ego doesn't need any more inflating, Jessica, seriously.
You know,
For humanity. I know, but
I'll
I
take
truly
it.
believe that.
I'll
I truly
take the
believe that.
inflation.
Each one of us is responsible for like helping to shift the frequency, you know. So
Yes.
no, amazing. Yes, please continue shifting the frequencies, because we need that. We definitely. Yeah, awesome. Yes, so unfortunately we have really come to the end of our episode today, but it was such a lovely panel. Thank you so much, girls, for coming on to the personal PR show. Promise us that you will come back, either together or separately, but you will come back, please.
Yes,
of course. Love it.
This was a lot of fun. It was awesome hearing about the overlap that we've got, but also the uniqueness of what you're doing, Therese. So yeah, totally. I'm done. I'm ready.
Absolutely.
You're ready. Awesome. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Thanks
for inviting me, Jessica. You're an absolute star. And
thank
all the amazing work you do,
Well,
helping people.
I don't change
their purpose as well. Yeah, their purpose. And
Yeah.
I see your thought leadership being very much aligned with that as well. And
Thank
your
you.
breakthrough idea, it's very much aligned with people's purpose. So yeah.
So cool.
It was kind of natural, but of course I tweaked it by design as well, a couple of things. And it's not that we need to lie about anything, but we need to be selective. Maybe there are 10 things that we can talk about. Maybe we select 3 that are, where we really see that there's an overarching strategy, like a common denominator or something, so that the brand looks more coherent, so to say. Yeah, that is the only thing that I did by design, so to say. Awesome. Thank you so much, girls. And thank you so much to everybody who is watching us from home or wherever they are in the world. But thank you so much for following the Personal PR Show. And I'll see you, I don't know when, let me tell you when. I think it's in 2 days. I see you on Thursday for the next episode of the Personal PR Show. Thank you so much, girls. Take care. Mwah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Heather.
Bye.